you can be right and still alone. A figure standing tall as others walk away into the distance. Turn down the lights and allow the hum of nighttime to wrap around you like a soft blanket. This is Learn While You Sleep, a gentle space where your mind unwinds and learns quietly. Imagine you're lying in a field, watching shooting stars streak across the sky, while your phone lies face down next to you. The universe has a bigger screen than any device. I read your messages before I sleep, and they mean the world. If you feel like it, hit like or subscribe, and tell me what time it is where you are right now. So settle under your blanket. Let the gentle hum of your room be your soundtrack, and together we'll ease into tonight's reflection. There's no denying that sometimes being right means standing alone, because people often choose comfort over confrontation. Looking back, a little-known fact is that in ancient Athens, outspoken thinkers were often ostracized for challenging the norm. This first hard lesson is there's a softness even in the honesty. You feel the tension between wanting to speak and wanting to belong, as if you're holding a rope on both ends. It makes you ask yourself, if being truthful is worth losing company, when silence would keep peace. You let that question hover gently, like dust motes in a beam of light. The night moves forward, and so will you, into the next realization about comfort and cages. Your heartbeat steadies as you surrender to the thought. You marvel at how much space a single idea can occupy in your mind. Comfort zones are velvet cages, a relaxed figure sitting in a soft, luxurious cage, the door wide open but unused. The air in here is warm and still, a familiar scent of safety that you breathe deeply. Every surface is padded, every corner rounded, and the light is always a soft, forgiving glow. You have arranged everything perfectly to avoid any sharp edges, any sudden noises. It is a sanctuary built by your own hands, stitch by careful stitch. But a sanctuary can become a cell without a single lock changing. The velvet walls, so gentle to the touch, also absorb sound, leaving the world outside a muffled rumor. You know the door is open. You see it every day. Yet the step beyond it feels like a cliff edge into cold, thin air. A strange fact floats to you. Some ancient turtles, when moved to a new pond, will spend years trying to find their way back to their original home, even if the new one is better. What small, delicious discomfort have you been avoiding today? The thought is a tiny, cool draft from the open door. It brushes against your cheek, a silent invitation. The comfort of this cage is real, but so is the vast, living world just beyond its threshold. Pain is the price of depth. A figure diving deep underwater, light fading, but insight glowing. You take a breath and let yourself sink below the warm, sunlit surface. The cheerful noise of the world above you fades into a distant hum, then into nothing. The pressure builds against your ears, a dull, insistent ache. The light from above becomes a shimmering coin, growing smaller and more precious as you descend into the indigo dark. This is where the shipwrecks lie, covered in slow, beautiful corals. This is where the true giants of the ocean drift, silent and immense. You cannot reach these depths without accepting the cold and the pressure. There is a scientific truth about the deep sea. Creatures that live there often create their own light, a soft bioluminescence to navigate the eternal night. Your deepest insights, too, often glow brightest against the backdrop of your own darkness. What hidden landscape of your soul have you only ever seen in the dark? The pain of the descent is the tuition you pay for this view. It is a cost that cannot be avoided, only accepted. You hold your breath and watch the dark water around you begin to sparkle with your own inner light. Validation is a leaky cup. A person pouring glowing stars into a cracked cup that leaks light. You hold out your cup, hoping to catch the glowing words of others. You did well, they say, and a little starlight pools in the bottom. I admire you, and a bit more fills it up. For a moment, you feel warm and full, the liquid light soothing a thirst you have carried for years. The feeling is real, but it is also tragically temporary, because your cup is cracked. You can pour and pour, but the validation never stays. It seeps out through hairline fractures of self-doubt, through the old chips of past rejections. Soon, the cup is empty again, and the thirst returns, sharper than before. You recall the myth of the Danaids, condemned forever to carry water in a sieve. The endless task feels familiar, doesn't it? What if you stopped seeking to fill the cup, and instead learned to mend it? The leak is not in the world's ability to give praise, but in your own vessel. The repair is a quiet, internal work, done not with gold, but with self-compassion. Each gentle acceptance of your own flaws is a seal against the leak. You'll outlive many versions of yourself. A trail of fading silhouettes behind one glowing figure. You look over your shoulder and see them there, lined up behind you like ghosts. The version of you that believed in simple answers. The one that thought love was a constant, fiery explosion. The one that was certain of their career path, their friends, their place in the world. Each one feels like a stranger now, their concerns so distant and small. They are not failures. They are stepping stones, shed skins that allowed you to grow. You did not betray them by changing. You honored their purpose. A snake does not mourn its discarded skin. It simply leaves it behind, a papery testament to its growth. The process is natural, even if it feels like a series of small deaths. Which version of you from 1 year ago would not recognize the person you are tonight? That person had different fears, different dreams. They are gone now, and you are here. And one day, the you of this very moment will also be a silhouette in your rearview mirror, fading gently into the past. Truth costs people, lies cost you. A glowing figure standing on solid ground as others fall away into darkness from false bridges. You speak a simple, clear truth into the space between you and another. It hangs there, a solid, unadorned thing. You watch as the other person's face changes, their comfortable reality shattering around them. The bridge of the lie, which you both pretended was stone, reveals itself as rotten wood. They step back, and the distance between you grows instantly. It is a brutal transaction. The truth costs you their easy company, their smiling approval. It feels like a loss. But the alternative, the lie, costs you something far more precious, your own integrity. Every time you swallow a truth to keep the peace, you feed a small, dark creature that lives inside you. It grows on your silence. How much of yourself have you already paid to maintain the comfort of others? The price of the truth is paid up front, in social currency. The price of the lie is a slow, internal debt that compounds with interest. You stand on the solid ground of what is real, even if it means standing alone for a while. Envy is admiration's rotting twin. Two identical figures, one turning dark green with cracks spreading. You see someone with something you desire, a talent, a possession, a piece, and the first feeling is pure, bright admiration. It is a clean, upward-looking joy. But then, something shifts. The light of your admiration touches the shadow of your own lack, and a chemical change occurs. The clean feeling curdles into something sticky and dark. Envy is not desire. It is resentment that someone else has what you have not yet earned or found. It focuses your energy on the person who has it, rather than on the path to getting it yourself. It is a poison that looks like motivation. You remember the story of Icarus, who fell not because of the sun's heat, but because of the envy it inspired for a height he could not sustain. What if you could catch that feeling the moment it turns green? What if you could gently guide it back to its pure form? Simple admiration? Admiration says, "That is beautiful. I would like to cultivate that." Envy says, "That is beautiful, and I am less because it is not mine." One builds, the other rots. Healing can't happen in the same wound. A figure walking away from a dark, spiky pit toward faint light ahead. You keep returning to the site of the pain, poking at it, examining it, hoping that this time your attention will magically stitch it closed. But you are just reopening the scab. The environment of the wound is one of memory and hurt. It cannot also be the environment of repair. The soil is too poisoned there. Healing requires a change of scene, both externally and internally. It means walking away from the person, place, or pattern that holds the memory of the injury. This feels like giving up, but it is the opposite. It is choosing yourself over the drama of the wound. A doctor in an emergency will first move a patient away from the ongoing danger before treating them. What familiar hurt are you still circling, like a planet around a dead star? Its gravity is powerful, but it gives no light and no life. The first and bravest step is to break orbit, to turn your back on the dark pit and walk toward a neutral space, where the air is different and your body can finally remember how to mend itself. Peace isn't found, it's built. A figure stacking glowing stones into a small shrine of calm. You have been searching for peace as if it were a lost key, hidden under some forgotten corner of your life. You thought if you just found the right job, the right person, the right philosophy, it would be there, waiting for you. But you are starting to see that this is not how it works. Peace is not something you discover. It is something you construct, brick by patient brick, in the middle of the chaos. Each conscious breath is a stone. Each choice to let go of a grudge is another. Each moment of setting a boundary is a piece of the foundation. It is slow, manual labor, and no one can do it for you. It is not a spectacular find. It is a humble, daily practice. What one small stone can you lay today in the foundation of your own tranquility? Perhaps it is turning off a screen for an hour. Maybe it is speaking one kind word to yourself. The shrine you are building will not block out the storm, but it will give you a dry, warm place to sit inside it. You were enough before you proved anything. A peaceful figure resting, surrounded by discarded medals. Before the first achievement, before the first trophy, before anyone ever clapped for you. You were a complete human being. Your worth was not pending, like an application under review. It was inherent, a quiet fact of your existence. The baby you once were did not need to prove its value to be loved and cared for. It simply was. Somewhere along the line, you were taught that you must earn your place, that you must constantly demonstrate your value. This is a lie. The medals and the accolades are decorations you hang on the outside of a building that was already standing, already whole. A tree does not need to prove it is a tree. It just is. Can you feel the truth of that, underneath all the striving? The you that exists before the morning alarm, before the daily performance, is enough. That core self does not need to be validated. It only asks to be acknowledged, like a quiet friend who's been waiting in the next room all this time. Everyone's too busy hurting to notice yours. A central figure surrounded by others holding their own wounds. You walk through a crowd and feel invisible, convinced your pain is a blazing signal for all to see. But look closer at the faces around you. That person is nursing a quiet betrayal from their mourning. Another is carrying the weight of a family expectation. Each one is the main character in their own private story of struggle, their attention turned inward. This is not a cruel indifference, but a simple human limitation. The brain is designed to prioritize its own alerts. Your ache, no matter how sharp, is background static in the symphony of their own concerns. There's a reason in emergency training they teach you to point at a specific person and say, "You, call 911. A diffuse cry for help is often lost in the crowd's confusion. How liberating is it to realize you are not being judged as harshly as you fear? The spotlight you feel is often one you are shining on yourself. This truth hurts the ego, but it can soothe the soul. You are free to tend to your wounds without an audience, to heal without the pressure of performance. Happiness without gratitude evaporates. A figure holding a glowing droplet that fades in their open hand. You achieve a thing you have wanted for so long. The new job, the romantic partner, the purchased item. For a moment, a brilliant happiness fills you, a glowing liquid light you hold in your cupped hands. You think, "This is it. I have arrived." But if you do nothing, you watch as it slowly, inevitably, evaporates into the air. Happiness is a reaction to an event, a fleeting chemical spark. Gratitude is the active process of savoring, of acknowledging the value of what you have, whether it is a grand achievement or the steam rising from your morning tea. Without gratitude, happiness is just a weather event passing through. Studies show that people who keep gratitude journals consistently report higher levels of well-being, not because their lives are better, but because their focus is. What one thing right now can you genuinely feel thankful for? The feeling does not need to be loud or dramatic. It can be a quiet whisper of thanks for the roof overhead, for the function of your limbs, for a single pleasant memory. This act of thanks is the lid that keeps your happiness from vanishing into the thin air of expectation. Kindness isn't always innocent. A smiling figure offering a flower with a hidden hook. You offer help, a compliment, your time. It feels like a pure gift, given from the goodness of your heart. But sometimes, if you are very honest, you can detect a subtle string attached, a desire for reciprocation, for a specific reaction, for a debt to be acknowledged. This is kindness with a hidden price tag, and it is more common than you think. This does not make you a bad person. It makes you a human one, navigating a social world of exchanges. The hook is often born from a place of lack within yourself, a need to feel needed, to be seen as good, to control an outcome. True, innocent kindness expects nothing in return. Its reward is the act itself. It is a closed loop, a perfect circle. When you are kind today, can you feel for the string? Is there a tiny tug, a hope for something in return? The practice is to notice the hook without judgment and to choose to release it, to let the flower be just a flower, given freely, with no hand waiting on the other end to pull it back. No one is coming, but you're stronger than you think. A lone figure lifting themselves from the ground with a radiant inner light. You wait for a rescuer, a mentor, a partner who will see your struggle and sweep in to fix it. You hold your breath, hoping for an external force to change your circumstances. The painful, liberating truth is that no one is coming. The cavalry is not on its way. This is your battle and your field. This feels like a sentence, but it is actually an empowerment. The belief that someone is coming is what keeps you passive. Accepting that they are not is what forces you to stand up on your own 2 feet. You have survived 100% of your worst days so far. That is not a coincidence. It is a testament to a strength you have been using without even crediting it. What is one small thing you can do for yourself right now that you have been waiting for someone else to do? Make that decision. Send that email. Set that boundary. The action itself is less important than the muscle it builds. The radiant light does not come from a savior on the horizon. It is the generator you have been carrying inside you all along, waiting for you to flip the switch. Discomfort is proof of change. A cocoon cracking open as light seeps through. The feeling arrives, a tightness in your chest, a restlessness in your limbs. Your first instinct is to retreat, to find the old comfort, to make it stop. But what if you paused and recognized this sensation for what it is? Growing pains. Discomfort is the physical signature of your old self straining against its edges. A caterpillar dissolving in its chrysalis does not feel comfortable. It is a process of disintegration and reorganization. The ache you feel is the cracking of the shell, the necessary breaking for the new form to emerge. Your brain is wired to conserve energy, to seek the familiar, so it registers growth as a threat. The discomfort is a sign you are winning the argument against stagnation. Can you welcome the next wave of unease as a teacher, not a tormentor? Breathe into the tight space. The muscle being stretched is not in your body, but in your mind, in your spirit. The light seeping through the cracks is not a threat. It is the world you are growing into, waiting to meet the new you. People change when it hurts more to stay the same. A figure breaking free from an old skin made of glass. You know what you need to do. Leave the job. End the relationship. Start the therapy. But knowledge is not motivation. You will cling to the familiar hell far longer than you should, because the devil you know feels safer than the angel you don't. The pain of the situation has to exceed the perceived pain of the solution. This is not a moral failing. It is a law of human physics. We are organisms that move away from perceived harm. The problem is, the harm of the status quo becomes normal, a dull background noise. The sharp, clean pain of change seems far more terrifying. The moment of change comes when the background noise becomes a scream you can no longer ignore. What silent scream are you already hearing? The glass skin you live in is cutting you, but it is also transparent, showing you the life you could have if you were free. You do not break out because you suddenly become brave. You break out because the 1,000th cut finally makes the structure untenable. The shattering is not the end of you, it is the beginning. You'll be forgotten sooner than you think, a human figure dissolving into fading dots. You work, you build, you create a legacy, hoping to leave a mark that will last. It is a human desire to matter, to be remembered. But the universe has a relentless tide of newness that washes over the footprints of those who came before. Within a few generations, your name may be just a datum in a family tree, if that. This feels like a chilling thought, a void of meaning. but it can also be the source of immense freedom. If you are going to be forgotten anyway, then you are free to live for your own satisfaction, by your own rules. The pressure to be historically significant evaporates. The Egyptian pharaohs built pyramids to be remembered, and we don't even know all their names. What would you do differently today if you truly embraced your beautiful, temporary insignificance? The value of your life is not in its eternal echo, but in the quality of the sound you make while you are here. The fading dots are not a tragedy. They are proof that you were once a solid, glowing shape, a brief and wonderful constellation in the dark. Love doesn't always mean staying. Two figures parting slowly, connected by a fading heart-shaped line. You love someone deeply, truly, and yet you have to leave. The love has not died. In fact, it may be what makes the leaving so painful. You realize that your presence in their life is now a source of harm, or that their presence is stifling your growth. Love, in this moment, looks like a graceful exit. This contradicts every romantic story we are told. We are taught that love conquers all, that it means sticking it out forever. But sometimes the most conquering thing love can do is to release its object. It is a higher love that prioritizes the other's ultimate well-being, or your own, over the temporary comfort of togetherness. A parent who lets a child go loves them deeply. Can a feeling so beautiful also require such a painful action? The heart-shaped line stretches, becomes thin and translucent, but it does not snap. It transforms. It becomes a thread of well-wishing, of unconditional respect that exists beyond proximity. Love is not a cage. It is sometimes the key that unlocks the door for both of you to find your right paths. Regret ages faster than time. A hunched figure surrounded by floating clocks turning to dust. You carry the memory of a mistake, a word said, a path not taken. It feels fresh, a wound that never quite heals. But the person you are today is not the person who made that choice. You have grown. You have learned. The regret is a ghost, haunting a house you have long since renovated. Regret is a heavy, rotten food. The more you consume it, the more it sickens you, yet it provides no nourishment. It forces you to live in a past that no longer exists, using a map that is outdated. Time itself moves in one direction, but regret tries to build a permanent residence in a moment that has already flowed into the sea. What if you offered your past self the compassion you would offer a stranger? They were doing the best they could with the tools and knowledge they had at the time. The floating clocks turning to dust are the moments you are missing right now, by staring backward at the dust fall. The ghost only has power because you keep inviting it in for tea. The truth doesn't need defending. A glowing sphere floating steady while storms rage around it. You state what you believe to be true, and immediately someone attacks it. Your pulse quickens. You ready your arguments. You gather your evidence. You prepare for a battle of wits and words. But watch the truth itself. Does it change? Does it tremble? A fact is unaffected by whether people believe it or not. The truth is a steady sphere, glowing with its own inherent light. The storms of opinion, the hurricanes of debate, rage around it, but do not touch its core. Your compulsion to defend it often comes from your own ego, your need to be seen as right and smart. The truth does not care about your reputation. It just is. What would happen if you simply stated your truth and then fell silent? The silence is not weakness. It is the calm eye of the storm. It allows the other person to rage until they exhaust themselves, facing the immutable object you have placed in the room. Your energy is preserved, your peace is intact. The sphere continues to glow, undimmed by the noise. Closure is a luxury, not a guarantee. A person before a locked glowing door, turning toward sunrise. You stand before the door of a past event, waiting for it to open and provide the answers that will finally let you move on. You knock, but there is only silence from the other side. The painful truth is that some doors are meant to remain locked. The key is lost, or the person on the other side has left, or the structure itself has decayed beyond opening. Closure is not a universal right. It is a fortunate alignment of circumstances where both parties are willing and able to provide a satisfying ending. Often, you must find your own resolution without the final conversation, the apology, or the understanding you crave. In archaeology, most finds are fragments, and the complete vessel must be imagined from the pieces that remain. What if you stopped waiting for the door to open and simply admired the sunrise happening behind you? The light is real, even if the door remains shut. Your peace cannot be held hostage by someone else's willingness to provide an ending. You can write the last sentence of that chapter yourself, even if it ends with an ellipsis instead of a period. Peace demands losing the argument. Two figures sitting apart, one smiling quietly as chaos fades behind them. You have the perfect retort lined up, the fact that will win the day and prove your point beyond a doubt. You can feel the words on your tongue, sharp and ready. But then you see the cost, the escalating anger, the fractured connection, the storm of stress that will follow your victory. In this moment, peace becomes a conscious choice to lay down your weapons. Letting the other person have the last word feels like a defeat to the ego, but to your deeper self, it is a strategic retreat to higher ground. You are not conceding the truth. You are conceding the battle for the sake of your own tranquility. There is an old martial arts principle. Sometimes the way to win a fight is to avoid it altogether. Can you feel the heavier weight of being right versus the lighter weight of being at peace? The smile on the quiet figure's face is not one of ignorance, but of liberation. They have chosen to keep their inner calm instead of winning a trophy for debate. The chaos fades not because it was defeated, but because it was no longer fed. Potential is wasted without motion. Shelves of glowing, unopened jars labeled dreams. Your mind is a library of brilliant possibilities, the book you could write, the business you could start, the person you could become. Each one is a glowing jar on a shelf, filled with vibrant, buzzing energy. They are beautiful to look at, comforting to know they are there. But a jar unopened is a feast uneaten. Potential is not a value that accrues over time. It is a perishable asset that decays with inactivity. The energy inside those jars is meant to be spent, to be transformed into action, however small. A seed has the potential to be a forest, but only if it breaks open and pushes toward the sun. Left in the packet, it is just a keepsake. What one jar can you take down today and simply open? You do not have to use all its contents at once. Just a taste, a single step. The act of opening is more important than the scale of what follows. The motion itself, no matter how small, transforms potential from a noun into a verb. It changes from something you have to something you do. Pain is a better teacher than praise. A figure kneeling, light blooming from cracks in their knees. When you succeed, you receive a reward, a hit of dopamine that feels good, but teaches you little. The path is clear, the method confirmed. But when you fail, when you feel the sharp sting of pain, your entire system is alerted. Your mind becomes a focused, sharpened tool, desperate to learn the lesson so it will never feel this way again. Praise polishes the surface, but pain forges the core. It forces you to question your assumptions, to develop new strategies, to find resilience you didn't know you possessed. The light that blooms from your knees is insight, and it only grows in the fertile soil of brokenness. Kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold, teaches that breaks can become the most beautiful part of the story. What recent hurt has left you with a gift of clarity? The wound is still tender, but can you see the faint glow of understanding beginning to form around its edges? You are not defined by the fall, but by the new knowledge you gather while you are down there. The lesson is the gold, and you are the vessel being made more valuable. Control others, lose yourself. A puppeteer entangled in their own strings. You try to manage the people around you, their opinions, their actions, their feelings, to create a world that feels safe and predictable. You pull strings, you offer suggestions, you maneuver. For a while, it seems to work. The illusion of control is a powerful comfort, but the strings you are pulling are not attached only to them. Each string is also wrapped around your own wrists, your own ankles. The more you try to direct others, the more you become trapped in your own web. Your energy is spent on external manipulation, leaving little for your own growth and desires. The puppeteer becomes a prisoner of the stage they built. When was the last time you let a string go slack? The feeling is one of terrifying freedom. The puppet may not move as you wished, but your hands are suddenly free to touch your own life, to create something for yourself. The greatest control you can ever wield is the focused, disciplined control of your own attention and actions. Everything else is an exhausting and futile game. Doing right can look like being wrong. A glowing figure surrounded by pointing, accusing silhouettes. You make a decision based on integrity, on a deep internal moral compass. It is the right thing for your soul, for the long term, for a truth that is bigger than social approval. But to the people around you, it looks like a mistake, a betrayal, a bizarre and foolish choice. Their fingers point. Their voices rise in confusion and judgment. This is the loneliness of conviction. You must hold the glowing certainty of your choice inside while weathering the storm of external disapproval. The crowd judges by immediate, visible outcomes. You're acting on a timeline only you can see. Many of history's most revered figures were initially considered heretics or fools. Can you bear the weight of being misunderstood? For the sake of being right with yourself. The pointing silhouettes are not evil. They are simply looking at a different map. You have charted a course they cannot see. Trust your own coordinates. The glow around you is not a shield against their judgment, but a light to see your own path by. A path you must walk alone until the scenery changes. Joy shrinks when you chase applause, a glowing figure holding a small warm light, while a distant crowd reaches out, their hands casting long shadows. You perform, you achieve, you post your victory, and you wait. The applause is a drug you start to crave. Your joy becomes tied to the volume of the external validation, but the more you turn your head to check the crowd, the more you cup your hands to catch the noise, the more you expose your small, warm light to the wind. The light flickers, threatening to go out. The crowd's hands are always reaching, but they are also casting long shadows over your own heart. Their approval is fickle, based on their own moods and needs. Your joy, when sourced from them, becomes a rental property, never truly your own, A curious fact: fireflies synchronize their flashes not to compete, but to create a collective greater light. Your joy is meant to be your own internal flash, not a reflection of a stadium's roar. Can you feel the difference between joy that comes from doing and joy that comes from being seen? The figure stops looking at the crowd and brings their hands closer, shielding the flame. The world outside grows quieter, but the warm glow grows brighter, feeding on the oxygen of your own genuine engagement. The applause was never the point. The light was. Forgiveness doesn't require an audience. A figure releasing a small light from their hands into the dark. You think forgiveness is a transaction, that the person who wronged you must witness your act of grace, must understand the magnitude of your mercy. But this turns forgiveness into another form of control, a performance of your own goodness. True forgiveness is a private ceremony, held in the chapel of your own heart. It is the internal decision to release the debt, to stop demanding payment for a hurt that may never be acknowledged. You are not saying what they did was okay. You are saying that you will no longer let it poison your present. The light you release is the energy you are wasting on holding a grudge. It floats away, and your hands are left empty, clean, and free. Who are you holding in the prison of your resentment? And can you see that you are the one guarding the door? The prisoner is likely asleep in their own life, unaware of the cell you maintain for them. When you turn the key, you're not freeing them. You are unlocking your own cell and walking out into the open air. Your worth isn't measured in productivity, a resting figure glowing brighter than machines around them. You lie down to rest, and a voice in your head begins tallying the day's accomplishments. It whispers that you did not do enough, that you are falling behind, that your value is decreasing with every unproductive moment. This voice has confused your humanity with the function of a machine. A machine's value is in its output. Yours is inherent. You have worth because you breathe, because you feel, because you exist. Your capacity to admire a sunset, to feel compassion, to be curious. These are not productive acts, yet they are what make life rich. The resting figure glows not from effort, but from being. The machines around them are dark, because they only have value when they are doing. Can you grant yourself permission to simply be, without a spreadsheet of achievements? The world will always demand more doing. Your soul requires periods of just being. The two must be in balance. Your worth is a constant, like the North Star, unaffected by the clouds of busyness that sometimes obscure it. It is always there, shining, whether you are producing or not. Fear feeds on unused courage. A dark wolf shrinking as a figure finally steps forward. Fear lives in the gap between intention and action. The longer you wait, the more you feed it with your imagination. You picture every possible disaster, every stumble, every rejection. The fear wolf grows fat and strong on this diet of delayed action. It blocks your path, its shadow looming larger with every day you hesitate. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that your goal is more important than your comfort. It is the muscle you use when you take the action anyway. The moment you step forward, the feeding stops. The wolf, deprived of its meal of procrastination, begins to shrink. It may not vanish, but it becomes manageable, a companion instead of an obstacle. What small step have you been delaying that you can take tomorrow? The step does not have to be giant. It just has to be real. A single email sent, a single phone call made, a single no spoken aloud. Each act of courage, no matter how tiny, is a starvation diet for the fear that holds you back. The path ahead clears not by waiting for the wolf to leave, but by walking toward it. You don't owe anyone the old you. A figure stepping out of their shadow, leaving it behind. People who knew you years ago still expect the same person. The eager to please helper, the chaotic free spirit, the timid listener. They have a slot for you in their life, and they get uncomfortable when you no longer fit. You feel a pressure to shrink back into that old shape to make them comfortable, to fulfill a contract you never signed. But you are a river, not a photograph. You flow, you change course, you carve new canyons. The person they remember is a snapshot, a single frame from a moving picture. You do not owe it to anyone to remain frozen in time for their convenience. Letting go of that old version is not a betrayal of others. It is a loyalty to your own evolution. Can you feel the weight of that discarded shadow? It lies flat on the ground, a two-dimensional memory. You are now a three-dimensional being, moving into new light. The figure walking away is not being cruel. They are being whole. To try to force yourself back into that shadow would be a violence against the person you have worked so hard to become. Comfort feels safe until it stagnates. A glowing pond slowly turning black from stillness. You found a quiet eddy in the river of life, a place where the current is slow and the water is warm. It feels like safety, like a reward for all your striving. But water that does not move begins to grow thick with algae. The very stillness that felt like peace becomes a slow process of decay. This is the nature of all living systems. Without challenge, without flow, without some disruption, they begin to rot. Your mind, your skills, your relationships, they all require a current of newness to stay fresh and alive. The comfort zone is not a home. It is a waiting room. The glow of initial peace dims as the water grows stagnant and dark. What gentle current can you invite back into your pond today? A new skill, a difficult conversation, a different route for your walk. It does not need to be a raging rapid. Just a trickle of movement is enough to oxygenate the water, to clear the stagnation, and to restore the healthy glow that comes not from safety, but from vitality. Jealousy imitates, wisdom creates. Two figures painting, one copies, the other invents glowing patterns. You see someone else's masterpiece, their relationship, their career, their art, and a part of you screams, "I want that." So you try to replicate it. You copy their colors, their brushstrokes, their composition. But the result feels hollow, a forgery that lacks the soul of the original. This is the path of jealousy, and it leads only to a gallery of fakes. Wisdom, on the other hand, looks at that masterpiece and understands the work, the practice, the unique spirit behind it. Then it turns to its own blank canvas and begins to mix its own colors, to discover its own forms. Creation is an act of vulnerability. It risks producing something utterly new and possibly flawed. Imitation is an act of fear, hiding in the shadow of another's success. What unique color wants to emerge from your own palette today? The painting of your life does not need to look like anyone else's. The glowing patterns you invent from your own struggles and joys will have a light that no copy can ever capture. Put down the replica and pick up your own unique brush. Love without possession is the final lesson. Two hands releasing a glowing heart that gently floats upward. You love someone, and so you want to hold them close, to know their every thought, to ensure they walk a path you can see. This feels like love, but it is love mixed with fear. The fear of loss, of change, of being alone. True love is the ultimate act of non-attachment. It is two open hands, offering a heart without demanding one in return. To love without possession is to celebrate the other person's sovereignty. It is to love them for who they are, not for how they make you feel or how they fit into your life plan. It is the hardest and purest form of love because it requires you to be complete on your own. The released heart does not float away from you. It floats between you, free and radiant. Can you feel the difference between a clutch and a cradle? One is about control, the other is about support. Your hands are not empty when you release. They are open, ready to receive what is freely given, or to simply feel the air, unburdened. This is the final lesson. Love is a gift, not a transaction. Honesty costs comfort before it creates clarity. A figure wiping fog from a mirror, revealing a harsh but truthful reflection glowing beneath the haze. You live with the fog. It blurs the sharp edges, softens the unflattering lines, and makes the difficult truths look like gentle shapes in the mist. It is comfortable here. But to wipe the glass is an act of violence against that comfort. The cloth moves, and for a terrifying moment, everything gets clearer and uglier. The reflection that appears is stark, unadorned, and it glows with the uncomfortable light of what is real. This is the price of clarity. You must sacrifice the warm lie for the cool truth. You must trade the easy narrative for the complicated reality. The initial cost is a wave of discomfort, even pain, as your eyes adjust to the new, brighter light. But the fog was a prison of pleasant ignorance. The clear mirror, while harsh, shows you the true starting point of your life. What fog have you been allowing to linger on your own mirror? The figure's hand is steady. They know the temporary discomfort is the tuition for a lasting freedom. With the glass clear, you can finally see what needs to be accepted, what needs to be changed, and who you truly are. The clarity is what allows for real growth, not the comfort of the haze. Time teaches, it doesn't erase. A figure with soft scars on their body that glow faintly like constellations. You hope that time will heal all wounds, that it will act as an eraser on the chalkboard of your past. But time is not an eraser, it is a teacher. The wounds close, but they leave scars. The painful events recede, but they leave lessons etched into your nervous system. These scars are not flaws. They are a map of where you have been and what you have survived. These faintly glowing lines are your constellations. They tell a story of resilience, of survival, of depth earned through experience. Trying to erase them would be to destroy your own history, your own evidence of growth. A scar is stronger than the original skin. It is a testament to the body's incredible ability to repair and continue. What constellation on your own map carries the most important lesson? Trace it with your mind's finger. It does not hurt anymore, but it holds a wisdom that smooth, unbroken skin can never know. Time did not take the pain away. It transformed it into data, into strength, into a part of your unique and beautiful design. The more you chase control, the less you have. A figure grasping at sand slipping through their fingers. You try to manage every outcome, to plan for every contingency, to force life to follow your carefully drafted script. You clutch at the grains of circumstance, believing that if you just hold on tightly enough, you can keep them from shifting. But the tighter you squeeze, the faster the sand flows through the gaps in your fingers. Control is an illusion born from fear. The world is a complex, chaotic, an interdependent system. Your attempts to dominate it only highlight your own powerlessness. True power lies not in control, but in response. It is the flexibility of the bamboo that bends in the storm but does not break, while the rigid oak snaps. What one thing can you release your grip on tonight? Feel the relief as your hand opens, as the muscles in your forearm relax. The sand will shift, as it always does, but with an open hand, you can feel its texture. You can let it run through your fingers, and you can even, gently, guide a small portion of it. You trade the exhaustion of clutching for the subtle influence of guiding. Comforting lies are deadly gifts. A hand offering a beautifully wrapped box, leaking dark smoke. Someone offers you a lie to make you feel better. It wasn't your fault, they say, when perhaps it partly was. You deserve better, they insist, shielding you from a necessary critique. The box is beautifully wrapped in the ribbon of good intentions, and you're tempted to accept it. But inside, the dark smoke of stunted growth and delayed reality begins to leak out. These lies feel like kindness in the moment, but they are a poison that prevents healing. You cannot fix a problem you refuse to acknowledge. The truth, even when it hurts, is the only medicine that actually works. The person offering the lie is often trying to manage their own discomfort with your pain, not truly help you. Can you find the courage to politely refuse the beautifully wrapped box? To say, thank you, but I need to see what's really there. It is a harder path, but it leads to solid ground. The dark smoke of the lie will eventually dissipate, leaving you with the clean, clear air of reality, where true healing can finally begin. Stillness isn't laziness. A figure sitting peacefully while time flows around them. The world screams that you must be productive, that you must always be in motion. To sit in stillness, to simply be, feels like a sin against the cult of busyness. You feel a guilt creeping in when you are not doing, achieving, producing. But stillness is not the absence of action. It is the presence of a different kind of work. It is the work of integration, of allowing your experiences to settle and find their place. It is the work of listening to the whispers of your own soul, which are drowned out by the noise of constant motion. A field that is never allowed to lie fallow becomes depleted. Your mind and spirit are the same. What wisdom is waiting for you in the next moment of stillness you allow yourself? The figure sitting peacefully is not lazy. They are engaged in the vital work of recharging their essence. Time flows around them, but they are an anchor in the current, gathering strength not from doing, but from being. This is not wasted time. It is the most productive time of all for the soul. Attention is the new addiction. A figure with glowing eyes staring at countless floating likes. Your phone pings, and your hand moves without thought. A scroll, a tap, a hit of digital validation. Your attention is pulled from the rich, complex, and sometimes difficult real world into a streamlined river of curated content and social feedback. It feels like connection, but it is often a form of isolation, a transaction that leaves you emptier than before. This is the new addiction. It's not the substance, but the slot machine mechanism of variable rewards that hooks your brain. You are training yourself to seek the glow of the screen over the glow of a setting sun, the approval of strangers over the depth of a real conversation. Your attention is your most precious resource, and you are giving it away for free. What one real-world sensation can you pull your attention back to right now? The weight of your body on the bed, the sound of your own breath, the texture of the blanket. The floating lights are ephemeral. They vanish into the digital ether. The feeling of your own presence, however, is substantial. It is the ground beneath your feet. Reclaim your attention. It is the first step to reclaiming your mind. Wisdom comes dressed as pain. A figure opening a thorn-covered book that glows from within. You recoil from the sharp experiences, the failures, the heartbreaks. You see only the thorns, the immediate sting, the discomfort. You wish for a smoother path, a book with a soft, inviting cover. But the most valuable lessons are rarely packaged in comfort. They arrive rough and sharp, demanding your full attention, forcing you to handle them with care. That thorn-covered book is your life's curriculum. When you find the courage to open it, despite the pricks to your fingers, you find the pages inside glow with a light that no comfortable platitude could ever offer. The pain is the price of admission to a deeper understanding. A pearl begins as an irritant, a piece of grit that the oyster must transform. What thorny experience are you currently refusing to open? The initial sting is real, but the wisdom inside is waiting. You do not have to be grateful for the pain itself, but you can learn to respect the profound education it brings. The glow from within is the insight that will illuminate your path long after the thorns have fallen away. Trust your silence more than their words. A figure meditating as glowing speech bubbles fade away. People make promises. They offer explanations. They fill the air with sounds meant to reassure, to persuade, to connect. You listen, you nod. You try to believe the melody of their sentences, but underneath that melody, there is a rhythm, a silent truth that your body can feel. Your silence, the quiet space between your own thoughts, can hear it. When someone's actions contradict their words, trust the silence that holds the truth. When a situation feels wrong despite all logical explanations, trust the unease that has no vocabulary. Your nervous system is an ancient instrument designed to read the subtext of the world. Words can be crafted. The silent energy behind them is often more honest. What is your silence trying to tell you about a current situation? The glowing speech bubbles are attractive, but they are already fading. The meditating figure is not ignoring the world. They are listening to a deeper frequency. In the quiet, you can feel the solid ground of truth beneath the shifting sands of what is being said. Strength looks boring compared to drama. A calm figure meditating while chaos dances nearby. Drama is loud, bright, and captivating. It demands attention with its storms of emotion, its crises, its swirling narratives. Strength, true strength, is often quiet. It is the decision to not engage, to not react, to maintain a peaceful center, while the world spins wildly around you. To an outside eye, it can look passive, even boring. But this calm is not a lack of energy. It is a profound conservation of it. The chaotic figure burns their fuel in spectacular, short-lived bursts. The strong, calm figure generates a steady, sustainable power that can last a lifetime. Choosing peace over winning an argument, stability over excitement, is a strength that does not need an audience to validate it. Can you appreciate the quiet power in your next non-reaction? The drama will try to pull you in, to make you its fuel. The meditating figure is not missing out. They are opting out of a game that has no real winner. Their boredom is a superpower. It is the peace that allows for clarity, and from clarity, truly, effective action can eventually arise. You train others how to treat you, a figure drawing a glowing boundary circle around themselves. Every time you accept less than you deserve, you are giving a lesson in what you will tolerate. Every time you swallow a disrespectful comment, every time you pick up the slack without being asked, you are training people that this is an acceptable way to interact with you. You are the architect of your social world, whether you mean to be or not. The glowing circle is not a wall to keep people out. It is a definition of the space you occupy. It says, "This is me. This is what I value." People will test its edges consciously or not. Your consistent response, whether you hold the line or let it be crossed, is the training manual they will follow. It is not their job to guess your rules. It is your job to communicate them through calm, consistent action. What one boundary can you gently reinforce today? The drawing of the circle is not an aggressive act. It is a creative one. You are defining the sacred space of your own self and inviting others to respect it. The glow is your self-respect, and it becomes brighter with every loving, firm boundary you hold. People hear what confirms their beliefs. A figure shouting truth into an echo chamber of their own face. You offer a well-reasoned argument, a clear fact, a different perspective. But the person you are speaking to does not seem to be listening to your words. They are listening for keywords that fit into their pre-existing narrative. They are filtering your speech through a dense web of past experiences, fears, and identities. Your truth hits a wall of their own making. This is not necessarily a sign of ignorance or malice. It is a fundamental feature of the human brain, which seeks to conserve energy. By fitting new information into old boxes, you are not shouting into a room. You are shouting into a mirror maze, and the reflections they see are all versions of themselves. It is exhausting and often futile. When was the last time you did the same thing? The realization is humbling. The figure in the echo chamber is you, is them, is all of us. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is to stop shouting, to simply state your truth once, calmly, and then let it be. The echo chamber may never break, but you save your voice for those who are ready to listen outside of it. Integrity blooms quietly while noise demands attention. A small, glowing flower growing in silence at the feet of a figure standing firm while swirling chaos gestures for them to look away. All around you, the noise shouts, the drama, the gossip, the latest crisis, the urgent demands that are not important. They gesture wildly, trying to pull your gaze away from the ground. They need your attention to survive. But you keep your eyes lowered, tending to the small, quiet space at your own feet. There, in the silence you protect, a glowing flower is beginning to bloom. This flower is your integrity. It grows from consistent, small choices to do what is right, not what is easy or attention-grabbing. It does not shout. It does not wave its petals. It simply grows, fed by your focused presence. The swirling chaos is loud, but it is hollow. It has roots. The flower does what noise is trying to steal your attention from your own growth. The figure does not argue with the chaos. They simply refuse to look up. Their energy is reserved for the quiet work of watering their own character. The bloom may be invisible to the noisy world, but its glow illuminates your own path. Let the chaos swirl. Your job is to tend your flower. The universe doesn't owe you closure. A figure staring at scattered puzzle pieces that never fit. You search for the missing piece that will make sense of the pain, the ending, the betrayal. You sift through the memories, looking for a reason, a final word, a satisfying explanation that will tie everything up with a neat bow. You wait for a sign from the universe that it all meant something. But the sign does not come. The universe is not a novelist obsessed with neat endings. It is a wild, chaotic, and creative process. Some stories end mid-sentence. Some puzzles are missing pieces forever. The demand for closure is a demand for a kind of cosmic justice that may not exist. The scattered pieces are not a mistake. They are the actual picture. What if you stop trying to force the pieces to fit? The figure finally sits back from the puzzle, accepting the jagged edges and gaps. In that acceptance, a new kind of peace emerges. It is the peace of ambiguity, of living the questions themselves. You give yourself the closure the universe won't provide by simply deciding that the story, as it is over. Success without purpose is emptiness. A figure on a mountain peak staring into endless void. You climb the mountain. You achieve the goal you set for yourself years ago. You stand on the peak, expecting a rush of fulfillment, a profound sense of arrival. But instead, you feel nothing. A cold wind blows through you. The view is vast, but it feels meaningless. The peak is empty because the climb was its own purpose. This is the danger of chasing success without a deeper why. The goal is just a marker. If the journey was fueled only by ego, by the desire to prove others wrong, or by societal expectations, then the achievement is a hollow trophy, a ship that reaches its destination but has no cargo to unload has completed a pointless voyage. What cargo is your journey carrying? The purpose is the cargo, the meaning you are building and carrying with you. The figure on the peak is not a failure. They are a learner. The void is not a punishment, but an invitation to define a new, deeper purpose for the next climb. True success is not the altitude, but the richness of the load you carry. Happiness is weather, not climate. A figure sitting peacefully beneath a single beam of sunlight through clouds. You believe that if you just arrange your life perfectly, you will achieve a permanent state of happiness, a blissful climate that never changes. But happiness is not a climate, it is weather. It is a passing sunbeam on a cloudy day, a sudden shower on a warm afternoon. It is fleeting, temporary, and utterly dependent on a million transient factors. Trying to hold on to happiness is like trying to hold on to a sunbeam in your hand. The attempt itself creates the shadow. When you accept its temporary nature, you can appreciate it fully when it arrives and let it go without panic when it passes. The climate of a good life is not permanent happiness, but a resilient peace that can host all kinds of weather. Can you enjoy the next happy moment without demanding it stay? The figure beneath the sunbeam is not anxious about the clouds gathering. They are simply soaking in the warmth while it lasts. They know the climate of their soul is sturdy enough to handle rain, and that another sunbeam will inevitably break through in its own time. You can't pour from a burnt-out soul. A figure holding an empty glowing jar, their light dimming. You give and you give. Your time, your energy, your compassion. You pour it out for your work, your family, your friends. You believe this is what a good person does. But eventually, you look inside and find the jar is empty. Your own light is flickering, dimmed by the constant outflow. You have nothing left to give because you gave it all away. This is not nobility, it is self-destruction. You cannot sustain others if you are running on fumes. The oxygen mask rule on an airplane exists for a reason. You must secure your own before assisting others. Your well-being is not a selfish luxury. It is the fundamental resource that allows you to be of service in the world. What is one small way you can refill your own jar today? A few minutes of quiet, a walk without a purpose, a book for pure pleasure. The figure is not hoarding the light. They are tending to the source. A jar that is constantly refilled can pour forever. A jar that is drained to the dregs helps no one, least of all itself. Isolation is safer, but you starve there. A glowing figure in a protective bubble surrounded by darkness. You build the walls high and thick after a hurt. You decide that connection is too risky, that vulnerability is a flaw. Inside your bubble, nothing can get in to harm you. The air is sterile, the temperature controlled. It is safe, and it is empty. You have successfully protected yourself from the storms, but you have also blocked out the sun. Human beings are not meant to live in a vacuum. We are social creatures who require the exchange of energy, the friction of other minds, the unpredictable grace of shared laughter and tears. In isolation, your spirit begins to starve for lack of nourishment. The glow inside you dims from disuse. A single tree in a field may be safe from a forest fire, but it is also more vulnerable to being struck by lightning and never knows the strength of intertwined roots. What tiny puncture are you willing to make in your bubble today? It doesn't have to be a door, just a pinprick, a text to a friend, a moment of eye contact with a stranger, a shared smile. The risk is real, but the reward is the very oxygen your soul needs to breathe. The darkness outside is not all threat. It is also the space where other glowing figures exist waiting to reflect your light. Old versions of you deserve compassion, not shame. A figure hugging a smaller past self. You look back at the person you were 5, 10, 20 years ago, and you cringe. The mistakes, the naivety, the cringeworthy choices. You want to disown that version of you, to lock them in a basement of your memory and pretend they never existed. But that person was not an idiot. They were a student, doing the best they could with the lessons they had at the time. That past self was surviving, learning, and building the foundation for the person you are now. To shame them is to shame the very process of your own growth. They made choices based on a more limited map of the world. The figure hugging their smaller self is not celebrating the mistakes. They are offering the understanding that no one else could give them at the time. Which version of your past self is most in need of your compassion tonight? Send that younger you a mental message of thanks. Thank them for getting through that day, for learning that hard lesson, for being brave enough to make the mistakes that ultimately taught you what you now know. The hug is not an endorsement of the past. It is an integration of it. The ones closest can cut the deepest. Two embracing figures, one hiding a small knife. The stranger's insult is a scratch, easily washed away, but a hurt from someone you love and trust is a deep internal wound. It is a betrayal of the shared reality you built together. The knife is so sharp because it was forged in the fires of intimacy. They knew exactly where to place the blade for maximum effect, because they knew the landscape of your heart. This is the inherent risk of love. To let someone in is to give them a map to your vulnerabilities. There is no way to love deeply without also creating the conditions for profound hurt. It is a terrible and beautiful equation. The hidden knife is not always held with malicious intent. Sometimes it is wielded in a moment of their own blind pain, a reflexive lashing out. How do you forgive the hand that held the knife without pretending the cut never happened? The wound must be acknowledged and tended to. The embrace cannot be re-entered until the knife is dropped and the bleeding has stopped. Trust is not a switch that can be flipped back on. It is a bridge that must be rebuilt, plank by painful plank, if it is to be crossed again. You die twice, but legacy lives between them. A figure fading into dust while glowing ripples extend outward. The first death is when your heart stops beating, your breath stills, and your body returns to the earth. The second, final death is the last time someone speaks your name, the last time a memory of you is recalled, the moment you vanish from the living world entirely. The space between these two deaths is your legacy. Your legacy is not just your grand achievements or your wealth. It is the sum total of the ripples you created, the kindness you showed a stranger that changed the course of their day, the idea you shared that inspired someone else, the love you gave that became a part of someone else's strength. These ripples extend far beyond your own vision, intersecting with other ripples in an endless glowing web. What ripples are you creating with your smallest actions today? The figure fading to dust is not a tragedy, but a natural transformation. The glowing ripples are the evidence of a life lived in connection. You are creating your legacy now, in every word, every choice, every quiet moment of decency. The second death is inevitable, but the ripples you leave behind can travel forever. Comfort requires maintenance, growth, demands renewal. A figure polishing a chair while ignoring the open door. You have a comfortable chair. It is worn to the shape of your body, a perfect nest. To keep it comfortable, you must maintain it, dust it, polish it, occasionally tighten a screw. This is the work of preservation. It is necessary, but it is work that looks inward, that seeks to keep a thing as it is. Growth, however, is not about maintenance. It is about renewal. It demands that you leave the comfortable chair and walk through the open door into the unknown. It requires you to become uncomfortable, to learn, to change. You cannot simultaneously polish the chair and walk through the door. The two actions are in opposition. One seeks to freeze time, the other to flow with it. Are you mostly polishing or mostly walking? There is a season for both. But if you find yourself spending all your time on maintenance, your world will slowly shrink to the size of that single chair. The open door may seem intimidating, but it leads to new rooms, new chairs, new versions of yourself. Growth is not about abandoning comfort, but about expanding its definition. Nostalgia is a sweet lie, a figure reaching for a glowing childhood memory fading like smoke. You reach for a memory from the past, a time that seems golden, simple, and painless. The feeling is warm, like honey in your veins. It is a safe harbor from the complexities of the present. But nostalgia is not a true memory. It is an edited highlight reel, with all the boring, sad, and difficult parts carefully cut out. The past was not inherently better. It was just different, and you were younger, with different problems and a different capacity to handle them. The glowing memory is a phantom, a beautiful illusion that cannot be grasped. The smoke slips through your fingers, leaving only a scent behind. The Greeks saw nostalgia as a medical condition, a debilitating homesickness that could literally kill a soldier far from home. What present moment are you missing by staring at that fading smoke? The figure reaching for the past is turning their back on the raw, unedited, and potentially beautiful reality of now. The present may be messy, but it is real. It is the only time in which you can actually live, love, and build memories that one day will themselves become the sweet, edited lie of nostalgia. Apologies without change are empty echoes, a figure shouting into a canyon, words returning hollow. You say, "I'm sorry." The words leave your mouth, and you hope they will be enough to settle the debt, to restore the balance. But if your actions do not change, the words are just noise. They are empty echoes bouncing off the canyon walls, returning to you without having changed anything in the world. An apology is a promise of future behavior, not an erasure of the past. The real work of an apology happens after the words are spoken. It is the difficult internal work of understanding why you did the hurtful thing, and then building new neural pathways so you don't do it again. The words are the seed, but the changed behavior is the water and sunlight that allows for growth. Without it, the seed simply rots in the soil. Are you using words as a cheap currency to avoid the real cost of change? The figure in the canyon is alone with their own echoes. The person they hurt is no longer listening because they have learned that the sound does not predict a different future. A true apology is a quiet, personal revolution that then manifests in a consistent, new way of being. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life, a stage with one glowing figure moving seats to the back. You have been giving front row seats to people who do not appreciate the performance, who talk through the act, or who are just waiting for you to fail. You have treated your life as a public show, open to all critics. But you are the director, the producer, and the lead actor. You have the power to assign the seats. The front row is for those who cheer you on, who offer constructive feedback, who love you unconditionally. The cheap seats at the back are for acquaintances, fair-weather friends, and critics. And for many, you have the right to revoke their ticket entirely. It is not a cruel act. It is a necessary curation of the energy that surrounds you. Who have you been allowing to sit in your front row out of habit or obligation? The glowing figure is not being arrogant. They are being strategic. They are protecting the energy required to put on their best performance. Your life is a precious production. The audience you choose will directly affect the quality of the show. Move the seats. It's your theater. Energy goes where respect grows. A figure watering one small glowing plant while ignoring withered ones. Your attention is like water. It is a finite resource. You can pour it onto barren soil, into relationships that give nothing back, into jobs that drain you, into obsessions that bear no fruit, and watch it evaporate without a trace. Or you can direct it to the small glowing plants that actually respond to your care. Respect is the soil that allows your energy to take root and grow. This includes respect for yourself. When you pour your energy into places where you are respected, it multiplies. It creates more energy, more growth, more light. When you pour it into places where you are disrespected, it is stolen, wasted, and leaves you depleted. Where are you currently watering barren soil? The figure is not neglecting the withered plants out of malice. They are making a conscious choice to invest in life. Look at the gardens of your life, your work, your friendships, your hobbies. Which ones glow when you give them attention? Direct your water there. Let the rest go fallow. Your energy is too precious to waste on disrespect. Control is an illusion. A puppet cutting its own strings, floating uncertainly. You think you are the puppeteer of your life, pulling the strings to make things happen. You make plans, you set goals, you try to force outcomes, but so much is outside your control. The weather, the economy, the feelings and actions of others, a random virus, a sudden opportunity, the strings you think you're pulling are often just tangled around your own limbs. The moment you realize this, it feels like a terrifying free fall. You are the puppet cutting its own strings, floating in a vast space with no clear direction. But this is also the moment of true freedom. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you free up immense energy. You can stop fighting the current and learn to swim with it. What one thing are you trying to control that you simply cannot? Feel the tension in the string connected to it. Now, imagine gently slicing it with a pair of mental scissors. The initial feeling is weightlessness, which can be frightening. But it is also the beginning of trust. Trust in your own ability to adapt, to respond, and to find your balance in the beautiful, unpredictable drift of life. Fear disguises itself as logic, a figure holding a glowing mask labeled reason. Your mind presents a compelling case for why you shouldn't take that risk, why you should stay in the safe job, why you should avoid the difficult conversation. It lays out the evidence like a seasoned lawyer, pointing to past failures, potential pitfalls, and statistical probabilities. It all sounds so rational, so smart. But listen closely to the tone. Is it calm wisdom, or is it panicked control? Fear is a brilliant impersonator. It wears the mask of logic to make its hysterical demands seem like prudent advice. It uses real facts to build a prison of what-ifs. The glowing mask says reason, but the voice underneath is whispering, danger, retreat, hide. Your body might feel it as a tightness in your chest, a clenching in your gut, the true signature of fear, not logic. When did you last mistake your fear for a rational advisor? The figure holds the mask, recognizing it for what it is. You can acknowledge the logical points without letting them have the final say. Thank your fear for trying to protect you. Then gently set the mask aside. Make the decision from a deeper place, a place that knows the difference between a calculated risk and a fear-based retreat. Revenge wastes what's left of you. A figure throwing fire that burns their own hands. They wronged you. The injustice burns in your chest, a hot coal that demands to be thrown back. You plot, you fantasize, you imagine the satisfaction of seeing them hurt, as you have been hurt. It feels like a righteous mission, a balancing of the scales. But when you finally throw that fire, you are the one who gets burned. Revenge requires you to live in the past, to keep the wound fresh and open. It forces you to lower yourself to the level of the person who hurt you, poisoning your own spirit in the process. The energy you spend on plotting revenge is energy stolen from your own healing and future. You are trying to hurt them, but you are the one continuing to hold the hot coal. What would it feel like to drop the coal and let it cool on the ground? The figure with burned hands is not a hero. They are a warning. Letting go of revenge is not about saying what they did was okay. It is about declaring that your future is more important than their past. The fire of your life is too precious to waste on burning someone else. Use it to warm your own path forward. Peace costs people who thrive on chaos. A figure walking away as others throw stones. You decide to become a peaceful person. You choose calm over drama, silence over argument, detachment over entanglement. This seems like a harmless, positive change, but you will discover that some people in your life are invested in your chaos. They need your reactivity to feel alive, to validate their own drama, to avoid looking at their own emptiness. When you change, they will try to pull you back in. They will throw stones of provocation, gossip, and guilt. They need you to be the same person you were. because your peace holds up a mirror to their turmoil. Walking away from this is not a peaceful stroll. It is a determined march, with projectiles whizzing past your head. Can you pay the price of their disapproval for your own inner quiet? The figure walking away does not duck or retaliate. They simply keep moving, allowing the stones to fall harmlessly behind them. The cost of peace is the loss of those who only knew how to love you in the war. It is a high price, but the currency is your own soul. And in the quiet that follows, you will find people who speak the same language of calm. Not every battle deserves your sword. A figure sheathing a glowing blade while walking away. You have a sword. It is your energy, your time, your emotional capacity. It is sharp, and you know how to use it. Every day, battles present themselves. The pointless online argument, the colleague's passive-aggressive remark, the relative who pushes your buttons. Your instinct is to draw your sword and engage. It feels like strength. True strength, however, is the wisdom to know which battles are worth your edge. Most are not. Most are distractions, traps that drain your resources for no meaningful gain. The figure sheathing the sword is not weak. They are a master of energy conservation. They understand that a warrior who fights every skirmish will be too exhausted for the war that truly matters. What trivial battle are you preparing to fight today? Feel the weight of the hilt in your hand, and then choose to let it rest. Walking away is not losing. It is winning a larger victory over your own impulsiveness. Save your sword for the causes that define your life, for the protections of your core values. Let the minor irritations pass like dust on the wind. Attention without depth is emptiness, a figure floating above shallow glowing pools. You have 1,000 followers, a busy social calendar, a phone buzzing with notifications. You are seen, you are known, you are attended to. It feels like connection, like importance. But the attention is wide and shallow, a mile wide and an inch deep. You are floating on the surface of countless interactions, but none of them reach the core of who you are. This kind of attention is a hollow calories for the soul. It creates a craving for more, because it never truly satisfies the human need for being deeply known and understood. The glowing pools are beautiful from above, but dive in and you touch the bottom immediately. The figure floating is not connecting. They are performing for a surface. When was the last time you had a conversation that sank deeper than the weather or the news? The cure for this emptiness is not more attention, but deeper attention. One real conversation, where masks are dropped and truth is spoken, is worth 10,000 likes. Let yourself sink. Risk the depth. The water may be colder and darker, but it is where real life exists. Trust is built in drops and lost in buckets. A hand catching glowing drops leaking from a cracked vessel. You work for years to build trust with someone. You show up, you keep your word. You are reliable in small, consistent ways. Each act is a single drop of water falling into a vessel. Slowly, painstakingly, the vessel fills. The water glows with the warmth of security and predictability. But one major betrayal, one significant lie, one profound act of selfishness is like kicking over the bucket. The glowing water spills out in a sudden, shocking flood. All the drops you carefully added are gone in an instant. The vessel may even be cracked, making it impossible to ever hold water the same way again. The loss is disproportionate to the gain, and that is the nature of trust. Are you carefully catching the drops for those you care about? The hand in the image is trying to save what it can, but the loss is devastating. Trust is a fragile architecture. It requires constant, mindful maintenance. And if you are the one who spilled the bucket, know that apologies cannot gather the spilled water. You must find a new vessel and begin the slow, humble work of earning drops all over again. Gratitude doesn't grow in entitlement. A figure watering barren soil labeled more. You stand in a field of your life, holding a watering can, but the soil is hard and cracked, labeled more. You water it with the thought, I deserve more. I should have more. I need more to be happy. But nothing grows. The water of gratitude cannot penetrate soil that feels it is owed everything. Entitlement is a drought for the soul. Gratitude is the humble acknowledgement that what you have is a gift, not a guarantee. It is the recognition of the effort, the luck, and the grace that allowed something to come to you. The moment you shift from I deserve to I am grateful for, the soil softens. It becomes fertile, ready to receive the water and to grow something beautiful. What one thing can you look at without the filter of I deserve? See it as a pure, unearned gift. The food, the shelter, the simple ability to hear and see. The figure stops watering the barren soil of more and turns to a smaller, softer patch. There, with just a few drops of gratitude, a small, glowing shoot begins to push its way toward the sun. No one is coming to save you. A figure pulling themselves from a pit with glowing determination. You wait for the hero, the perfect partner who will fix your loneliness, the visionary boss who will discover your talent, the windfall that will solve your financial stress. You hold your breath, hoping for an external force to lift you out of your struggle. This hope is what keeps you stuck at the bottom of the pit. The painful, empowering truth is that the hero's journey is your own. The hand that pulls you up must be attached to your own arm. The glowing determination is the realization that you are your own rescue party. All the resources you need, the courage, the strength, the intelligence, are already inside you, waiting for you to stop looking to the sky and start climbing the walls. What is the first handhold you can find on your pit's wall? A small decision? A single action? The figure is not waiting for a rope. They are finding cracks, digging in their fingers, and using their own muscle to rise. The climb is yours and yours alone. It is the hardest thing you will ever do, and it is the thing that will make you strong enough to never fall so deep again. People love the idea of you, not the reality. A glowing statue admired by shadows, while the real person stands unseen. They love your potential, the role you play in their life, the version of you that fits their narrative. They admire the statue they have built in their mind, perfect, predictable, and glowing with idealized light. But the real you is messy, changing, and sometimes inconvenient. The real you has needs, flaws, and a voice that might disagree. When you step out from behind the statue and show your true self, they are often confused or disappointed. They were in love with the silhouette, not the substance. The shadows admiring the statue are not seeing you. They are seeing a projection. The real person, standing just aside, is invisible to them. How long have you been maintaining the statue for someone else? It is exhausting work. The moment you stop polishing it, you allow the real you to be seen. You may lose the admirers, but you will gain the space to find those who love the authentic, uncurated, gloriously imperfect person behind the marble. Let the statue crumble. The person is so much more interesting. Weakness isn't the opposite of strength. A figure kneeling, heart glowing brighter than muscles. You have been taught that strength is hardness, invulnerability, never asking for help. To show emotion is weak. To admit need is weak. To rest is weak. So you clench your muscles, you swallow your tears, you pretend you can carry it all. But this is not strength, it is brittleness. A rigid tree snaps in the storm. True strength is flexible, resilient, and often soft. It is the strength to be vulnerable, to say, I don't know, to ask for help, to kneel when you are tired. The heart that remains open and glowing even when it is hurting is the strongest muscle you possess. It is the strength of a river that flows around obstacles, not the strength of a rock that eventually erodes. When did you last mistake vulnerability for weakness? The kneeling figure is not defeated. They are gathering strength from the earth, from their own honest admission of fatigue. Their heart glows because it is still feeling, still loving, still beating despite the pressure. That is the core of all real power. Let your muscles relax. Let your heart lead. That is true strength. Acceptance hurts before it heals. A figure hugging their own reflection that's crying. You fight against a hard truth, a diagnosis, a loss, a personal limitation. You rage, you bargain, you deny. The feeling is like trying to hold a door shut against a hurricane. It is exhausting. Acceptance feels like giving up, like admitting defeat. So you resist, and the pain of the struggle becomes a constant, draining companion. But acceptance is not surrender to the problem. It is surrender to the reality. It is the moment you stop fighting the hurricane and finally turn to face it. The initial impact is brutal. It hurts to say, this is real. You have to hug the crying reflection of your own disappointment. But in that embrace, the storm's power over you begins to break. What reality are you still struggling against tonight? The hug is not an act of joy, but of profound courage. It is the beginning of integration. The pain of acceptance is a sharp, clean break, like setting a bone so it can heal properly. The pain of resistance is a chronic, debilitating ache. Choose the sharp pain that leads to healing. You can't fix people you broke yourself for. A figure bandaging others while bleeding themselves. You see someone wounded, and your instinct is to help. But if you are the one who fractured your own spirit to get to them, by ignoring your needs, silencing your voice, sacrificing your peace, then your help is tainted. You are trying to fix them with broken hands, offering bandages while you yourself are bleeding onto the floor. This is not compassion. It is codependency. You cannot give what you do not have. The energy you use to prop others up is stolen from your own foundation. The figure bandaging others is slowly collapsing, their own life force seeping away. A rescuer who drowns with the victim has saved no one. When will you turn your compassion inward to your own wounds? The most generous act you can perform for the world is to heal yourself. Stop breaking off pieces of your soul to use as splints for others. Become whole. Then, from your wholeness, you can offer true, sustainable help that doesn't require your own destruction. You can't outrun what you refuse to face. A figure sprinting in circles, shadow always behind them. You run. You fill your life with noise, with work, with new relationships, with constant motion. You think if you move fast enough, the thing you're afraid of, the memory, the flaw, the truth, won't be able to catch up. But you are running in circles, on a track that passes the same scenery again and again. Your shadow is always exactly as far behind you as you are from yourself. The thing you refuse to face has no need to chase you. It is your traveling companion, a part of you. It gains power from your fear, growing larger in the periphery. The energy you spend running is the very energy you need to turn and face it. The figure sprinting is forever tired, forever trapped. What happens if you simply stop running? Turn around and look at your shadow. It is not a monster. It is just a part of your story that wants to be acknowledged. The moment you stop and face it, it shrinks to its true size. It becomes manageable, just a piece of your history, not a predator on your heels. Your mind is a bad neighborhood after dark. A figure lost in a maze of glowing, anxious thoughts. In the quiet of night, your mind can turn into a dangerous place. The same thoughts that were manageable in daylight become ominous alleyways. You wander in circles of worry, down dead ends of regret, through neighborhoods of fear. The glowing thoughts seem illuminating, but they only show you more places to be afraid. This is not a reflection of reality, but a trick of the hour. Your brain's executive functions are tired, and its primitive alarm systems take over. They highlight potential threats without the capacity to assess them rationally. The maze is not real. It is a phantom city built from your unused mental energy and fatigue. Can you find the exit sign of your breath? The figure stops trying to navigate the maze and simply focuses on the sensation of air moving in and out. The glowing thoughts don't vanish, but they lose their power to terrify. They become just lights in the distance, not paths you must walk, wait for dawn. The neighborhood always looks safer in the morning light. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. A figure walking a path of cracked, glowing stones. You meant well. You wanted to help, to fix, to love. But your actions, despite their pure origin, led to pain. For you, for others. The path you walk is made of these broken good intentions. Each stone a plan that went awry. The glow is the memory of your purity, but the cracks are the unintended consequences. This is the tragedy of human action. We cannot control outcomes, only motivations. A gift given with love can feel like pressure. Advice offered with compassion can be heard as criticism. The path to hell is not paved with malice, but with the shattered pieces of our sincerest efforts to connect and improve. How do you forgive yourself for the damage you didn't mean to cause? The figure keeps walking, not out of blindness, but with the sober knowledge that to act is to risk error. The goal is not to stop walking, but to walk more mindfully, to learn from the cracks in the stones, and to understand that your goodness is measured by your intent, not your impact. You are the only constant in your problems. A figure surrounded by changing scenery, themselves unchanged. The jobs change, the relationships change, the cities change, but the same patterns of struggle, the same types of conflicts, the same inner voices follow you. It is tempting to blame the external world, the bad boss, the unloving partner, the noisy neighbors, but you are the one common element in every equation that doesn't solve. This is not a condemnation, but the key to your liberation. If you are the constant, then you are also the point of change. You cannot control the scenery, but you can change how you stand within it. The figure, once they realize this, stops trying to rearrange the world and instead looks inward at their own posture, their own reactions. What familiar problem has simply put on a new costume? The pattern is asking for your attention. It is a teacher disguised as a tormentor. By changing your relationship to the pattern, by understanding your role in it, you break the cycle. The scenery will keep changing, but you will no longer be the constant source of your own pain. The middle is messier than the beginning. A figure wading through a murky, glowing swamp. The beginning is all excitement and possibility. The end is all resolution and clarity. But the middle? The middle is a swamp. It's murky, confusing, and progress is measured in inches. The initial glow of inspiration has faded, and the light at the end of the tunnel is not yet visible. You are just in it. This is where most journeys are abandoned. It feels like failure, but it is actually process. The swamp is where the real work happens. The unglamorous, persistent wading through doubt and difficulty. The glowing murk is not a sign you're lost. It's the nutrient-rich soup of transformation. This is where you build the muscle you'll need at the finish line. Can you be kind to yourself in the messy middle? The figure doesn't try to sprint through the swamp. They just takes the next step and the next. They trust that murk is part of the map, not a deviation from it. The clarity of the beginning and the end are rewards, but the wisdom is earned in the swamp. Your best is a moving target, a figure trying to hit a shifting, glowing bullseye. You have an idea of your best, a level of performance, energy, or output you expect from yourself. But your best is not a fixed point. On a well-rested day, it's here. On a stressed day, it's there. When you're grieving, it's on the floor. To hold yourself to a single, rigid standard is to set yourself up for perpetual failure. The glowing bullseye moves with your health, your circumstances, your emotional weather. The figure trying to hit a static target is always missing, always feeling inadequate. True excellence is not about hitting one high mark, but about showing up with what you genuinely have to offer today and accepting that as enough. What does your best look like tonight, in this moment of tiredness? Maybe it's just breathing. Maybe it's listening. Maybe it's resting. That is enough. Let the bullseye move. Your worth is not in hitting a target, but in the integrity of your aim, whatever that looks like on any given day. The past is a story you keep editing. A figure writing in a book, old words fading as new ones form. Your memory is not a perfect recording. It is a story you tell yourself, and you are both the author and the editor. With each retelling, you emphasize some details and forget others. You reshape narratives to fit who you are now, to make sense of the chaos, to protect yourself from pain. The old words fade, replaced by your current interpretation. This is not lying, it is meaning-making. The problem arises when you forget you are the editor. You believe the current version is the absolute truth and suffer from a story that may have been revised to hurt you. The figure writing understands they are crafting a narrative, not uncovering an immutable fact. What story from your past have you frozen in time? Could you pick up the pen and edit it with the compassion you've earned? You cannot change the events, but you can change the meaning you assign to them. The book is still being written. You have the power to revise the chapters, not to erase them, but to understand them in a way that serves your life now. You can't think your way into a new life. A figure staring at a map while the path waits behind them. You analyze, you plan, you research, you visualize. You believe that if you can just find the perfect theory, the right mindset, the correct sequence of steps, then your life will change. But you are staring at a map while the actual path is right behind you, waiting for your feet to touch it. Thinking is preparation, not action. It is the menu, not the meal. You cannot intellectualize your way into a feeling, a relationship, or a lived experience. At some point, you must close the book, fold the map, and take the first clumsy, unplanned step into the unknown. The terrain will teach you more than the map ever could. What map are you currently overstudying? The figure finally turns away from the glowing parchment. The first step onto the real path is terrifying because it is unknowable, but it is also the only step that counts. Your body must move. Your hands must do. Your life is lived in the doing, not in the thinking about doing. Take the step. You become what you tolerate. A figure surrounded by growing weeds they never pulled. You allow a little disrespect, just a passing comment you shrug off. You tolerate a minor neglect, a small laziness in your own habits. These seem like harmless concessions, ways to keep the peace or avoid a fuss, but each tolerance is a seed, and you are the soil in which it grows. The weeds don't ask for permission. They just spread, until one day you look around, and you are living in a thicket of your own allowances. The people and circumstances in your life will grow to the exact boundaries of what you accept. This is a law of nature, as true for social dynamics as it is for plants. If you tolerate being interrupted, you will be interrupted more. If you tolerate your own procrastination, it will become your standard mode of operation. You are constantly, passively, voting for your future reality with your tolerances. What one weed have you been allowing to grow, thinking it was too small to matter? The figure is not being attacked by the weeds. They are simply surrounded by the consequences of their own inaction. The act of pulling one, just one, is a declaration of a new standard. It is a message to yourself and the world. This is no longer the environment I will tolerate. Peace feels heavy when you're used to running. A figure stopping in an open field, dropping a heavy backpack marked with swirling motion lines as calm light surrounds them. For years, your identity was in the motion, the frantic pace, the packed schedule, the constant pursuit of the next thing. It felt like purpose. Now, you have stopped. The backpack of perpetual motion hits the ground with a heavy thud. The silence is deafening. The calm light of peace surrounds you, but it feels like a weight, a strange and oppressive stillness. Your nervous system, tuned to the frequency of emergency, mistakes this quiet for danger. It screams that you should be doing, achieving, running. The peace feels like failure. The backpack, though heavy, was familiar. Its weight proved you were alive and trying. Letting it go feels like abandoning your very self. It is the withdrawal symptom from an addiction to chaos. Can you sit with the heaviness of the quiet until it becomes light again? The figure doesn't pick the backpack up. They just stand there, breathing, allowing their body to unlearn the tension of the run. Slowly, the calm light stops, feeling like a wall, and starts feeling like an embrace. The peace was never the burden. The running was. The weight you feel is not the peace, but the fatigue of finally, blessedly stopping. You can't heal what you hide. A figure covering their chest wound, glowing light trying to escape. You press your hand over the hurt, the shame, the mistake you pretend it isn't there. You smile, you perform, you keep the surface impeccably clean. But underneath your palm, the wound continues its secret work. It pulses, it aches, it leaks a glowing light that is your own vitality, being wasted on containment. Healing requires air and light. A wound kept in the dark will fester, no matter how hard you wish it away. The very act of hiding is what gives the wound its power. The glowing light is your potential, your joy, your energy, all being consumed by the effort of keeping a secret from yourself. You are not hiding the wound from the world. You are hiding it from your own conscious mind. What would happen if you simply moved your hand? The figure slowly lowers their palm, revealing the source of the pain. The air stings. Yes, it is terrifying. But the moment the light is allowed to stream out freely, the infection begins to clear. The wound can finally begin to close, not because it was ignored, but because it was finally acknowledged. The mirror shows truth you try to edit. A figure erasing parts of their reflection that reappear instantly. You look in the mirror and you see things you don't like. The signs of age, the face of fear, the posture of defeat. So you edit. You suck in your stomach. You force a smile. You turn to a better angle. You use mental software to airbrush the flaws, but the reflection is stubborn. The truth you erase just reappears the moment you relax your pose. The mirror of your life does the same. You can try to edit your history, to reframe your failures, to curate your image on social media. But the unedited truth remains, a constant underlying reality. The energy you spend trying to erase parts of yourself is a fight against physics. The reflection is not your enemy. It is your most accurate data source. What part of your reflection are you trying to edit right now? The figure finally stops erasing and just looks. They see the whole picture, the flaws, the strengths, the history, the potential. In that acceptance, a strange thing happens. The reflection softens. It becomes not a thing to be fixed, but a person to be understood. The truth, when accepted, loses its power to shame. Rock bottom builds foundations, not graves. A figure planting a glowing seed in the rubble. You hit the solid floor of despair. Everything has fallen apart. The structures you relied on are dust. It feels like the end, a grave for your dreams and your pride. But rock bottom has one unique property. It is solid. It is the one place from which there is no further down to fall. And that makes it the most stable foundation you will ever have. From this point, every action is upward. There are no more illusions to lose, no more facades to maintain. The rubble around you is not trash. It is the raw material for your rebuild. The figure planting a seed in the cracks isn't being naive. They are being an architect. They understand that the most resilient structures are often built on the site of previous disasters. What seed can you plant in your own rubble today? A seed of a new habit, a seed of a forgiven debt, a seed of a different thought. The glow is the potential that was always there, but needed the darkness and the pressure of rock bottom to activate. This isn't the end of your story. It is the moment you finally got to choose the bedrock. You'll never outrun your reflection, a figure chasing a mirror image that moves exactly with them. You change cities, change jobs, change partners, hoping to leave behind the parts of yourself you dislike. You run toward a new horizon, convinced that the source of your problems is behind you. But you are your own horizon. No matter how fast or how far you run, your reflection keeps perfect pace. It is always right there, a silent companion containing all you are trying to escape. The flaws, the patterns, the ingrained responses, they are not location dependent. They are baked into the runner. The chase is a futile marathon with yourself. The figure sprinting is in a race they can neither win nor lose, only exhaust themselves running. The reflection is not chasing you, it is you. What if you stopped running and finally faced your traveling companion? The moment you stop, the reflection stops. You can finally look at it, not as a monster, but as a part of you that needs integration. The journey of transformation is not an external flight, but an internal excavation. You cannot run away from yourself. You can only turn and begin the deeper, slower work of acceptance and change. The end is just the quiet beginning, a figure walking into glowing light beyond the frame. An era of your life concludes. A relationship ends. A career path closes. A chapter completes. It feels like a death, a finality. There is a frame around that part of your story, and on the other side is nothing but a blinding, unknown light. Your instinct is to cling to the frame, to the familiar shape of what was. But every ending is the silent start of something new. The void is not empty. It is full of potential. The glowing light is the unwritten page, the uncharted territory. The figure walking forward is not abandoning the past. They are accepting its conclusion and stepping into the birth of the next phase. A forest fire looks like an end, but it clears the ground for new seeds that couldn't have grown in the shade. Can you trust the generative power of an ending? The completion of one thing is the necessary condition for the beginning of another. The light is not to be feared. It is the creative space from which your next self will emerge. Take the step through the frame. The story isn't over. It's just changing settings. You outgrow people you once prayed for. A figure walking ahead while old shadows kneel behind. There are people you once loved so fiercely, you thought you could not breathe without them. You prayed for their presence. You built your world around them. But you kept growing, learning, changing. And one day, you look back and realize you have emotionally outgrown them. The connection that once felt like oxygen now feels like a constraint. This is not a betrayal. It is a natural consequence of unequal growth. You have walked ahead onto new ground, and they have remained, by choice or by circumstance, on the old. The shadows kneeling behind you are not evil. They are just memorials to a version of you that no longer exists. The love was real, but its season has passed. How do you honor the past without being chained to it? The figure does not scorn the shadows. They offer a silent nod of gratitude for the role they played, and then they continue walking. You cannot force someone to grow with you, and you cannot stunt your own growth to keep someone company. The most loving thing you can do for your own soul is to walk your path, even if it means walking alone. No one thinks about you as much as you do. A figure in spotlight while the world moves indifferently. You walk out of a room convinced everyone is dissecting your every word, your outfit, your mistake. You lie awake at night replaying a conversation, haunted by the thought of what they must be thinking of you. You are the star, the villain, and the audience in a perpetual drama playing only in your own mind. The liberating, humbling truth is that everyone else is the star of their own show. They are too busy worrying about their own lines, their own missteps, their own spotlight to pay sustained attention to your performance. The world moves with a gentle, profound indifference to the details of your self-consciousness. The figure in the lone spotlight is performing for an empty house. What would you do differently if you knew you were barely a supporting character in other people's stories? The pressure evaporates. The freedom to be imperfect, to be human, to simply exist without a running commentary becomes possible. Take a bow, step out of the spotlight, and join the rest of us in the comfortable, anonymous dark, where real life happens. The past doesn't negotiate. A figure pulling on a heavy chain labeled yesterday. You argue with what happened. You yell at the memory, you bargain with it, you offer deals. If only I had done this, then that wouldn't have happened. You pull on the heavy chain of yesterday, trying to drag it into a different shape, a different outcome, but the past is immutable. It is a block of solidified time. It does not hear you. It does not care. The chain is heavy because you are trying to move a mountain with your bare hands. The energy you spend in this futile negotiation is the very energy you need to build your today. The past is not a conversation. It is a fact. The figure straining against the chain is engaged in a battle they cannot win, for the war is already over. When will you drop the chain? The moment you release it, the weight is gone. The past does not change, but your relationship to it does. It becomes a monument you can visit, not a prison you live inside. You are free to turn away from it and face the present, where your actual power resides. The past is set in stone, but the future is still wet clay in your hands. Your fears are fiction with good lighting, a figure trembling before a shadow monster cast by a small object. In the dim light of your worry, your fears look like monsters, huge, solid, and real. They loom over you, casting long shadows that dance on the walls of your mind. Your heart pounds, your breath quickens. You are preparing to fight a terrifying beast. But what if you reached out and touched the shadow? You would find it has no substance. Your fears are often just small, manageable concerns projected onto a large screen by the dramatic lighting of your imagination. The shadow monster is cast by a tiny, harmless object, a what-if, a memory, a possibility. The fear is real in its feeling, but fictional in its form. It is a story you are telling yourself, with you as the potential victim. What happens if you turn on the light of inquiry? Ask, what is the smallest true thing here? The figure slowly reaches toward the shadow, and their hand passes through it. The monster vanishes, revealing the small, ordinary object that was its source. The fear loses its power when exposed to the calm, clear light of present moment reality. The monster was never there. Discipline outruns motivation every time. A tired figure running steadily while a glowing figure fades. Motivation is a glorious, glowing sprinter. It bursts from the starting line with incredible speed, fueled by inspiration and excitement. But it is a terrible distance runner. It fades at the first hill, the first sign of rain, the first boring stretch of road. Soon, the glowing figure is far behind, a memory of a feeling. Discipline, on the other hand, is the steady, tired runner. It is not flashy. It doesn't feel like a surge of power. It feels like putting on your shoes when you're tired. It feels like doing the work when it's the last thing you want to do. But discipline is a metronome. Its pace is slow, but it is relentless. It outlasts every emotional weather. Which runner are you fueling today? The figure relying on motivation is already stopping, looking for a new spark. The disciplined figure is already miles ahead, having built strength with every step motivation deemed too boring to take. Don't wait for the glow, embrace the grind. Consistency is the magic. Discipline is the vehicle that actually arrives at the destination. The right thing rarely feels good. A figure walking uphill alone while others rest below. You know the right path. It is the one that requires honesty when a lie would be easier. It demands integrity when cutting a corner is tempting. It calls for courage when silence is safe. And as you take that path, it feels lonely, difficult, and unsatisfying. Your body and ego scream in protest, looking back at the others taking the easy road. This is because the good feeling is often tied to short-term reward, social approval, immediate pleasure, avoidance of conflict. The right thing is an investment in long-term integrity, a peace that comes not from external validation, but from internal alignment. The reward is not a dopamine hit. It is the quiet knowledge that you can look at yourself in the mirror without flinching. Can you separate the feeling from the function? The figure walking uphill is not having more fun than the ones resting below, but they are heading for a different vista, one with cleaner air and a wider view. The climb is arduous, but the destination is a self-respect that cannot be taken from you. The good feeling comes later, as a deep and lasting contentment. Happiness feels foreign after chaos. A peaceful figure, uneasy in calm water after storms. For so long, your nervous system has been tuned to a frequency of crisis. The adrenaline, the hypervigilance, the constant scanning for the next problem. This became your normal. Then, the chaos stops. The water becomes calm, and instead of relief, you feel a deep, unsettling unease. The peace feels wrong, like a silence that is too loud. Your body, accustomed to surviving storms, misinterprets peace as danger. The absence of familiar threats feels like a threat itself. It's the same reason prisoners sometimes struggle with freedom. The structure of their confinement, however horrible, became their known world. The calm feels like a trap, a prelude to a shock that must be coming. Can you sit with the discomfort of your own peace? The figure in the calm water doesn't try to splash or stir up waves. They just float, letting their body slowly, over time, recalibrate to the new, quiet reality. The peace is not the problem. It is the solution. But your system, like sea legs on land, must learn to walk on solid ground again. Breathe and trust the calm. Peace requires boundaries. A glowing circle around a calm figure as chaos stays outside. You cannot find peace by hoping the chaos will politely avoid you. Peace is not a passive state of luck. It is an active state of defense. It requires a boundary, a defined space that you declare as sacred. The glowing circle is not a wall of hostility. It is a membrane of respect. It says, "This is the territory of my soul. Chaos may not enter here." People and circumstances that thrive on drama will test this line. They will push, they will guilt, they will try to make you feel responsible for their turmoil. Holding the boundary is the work. It is saying no to what drains you, so you can say yes to what sustains you. The calm figure inside is not ignoring the world. They are curating their own energy. What one boundary can you reinforce to protect your peace tonight? Perhaps it's a digital boundary, an emotional one, or a simple commitment to your own rest. The circle glows brighter with every loving, firm no you speak. Your peace is your responsibility. Build a fence and tend the garden within. Energy is finite, protected like gold. A figure holding a glowing orb close as shadows reach for it. You have a certain amount of energy each day, mental, emotional, physical. It is a glowing orb of life force, and it is the most valuable currency you possess. Yet, you give it away so freely, to pointless arguments, to people who drain you, to endless scrolling, to worry about things you cannot change. The shadows of the world are always reaching, always asking for a piece. If you spend your gold on trinkets, you will have none left for the treasures, your passions, your loved ones, your growth, your rest. You must become a fierce guardian of your own energy. This is not selfishness, it is stewardship. The figure clutching the orb is not being greedy. They are ensuring they have the resources to live a meaningful life. Where are you leaking your precious energy today? Each time you feel drained, ask, did this exchange merit my gold? The shadows will always be there, with their hands out. Your job is to decide what is worthy of your finite, glowing resource. Protect your energy. It is the fuel for your entire journey. Joy is a muscle. Use it or lose it. A figure stretching towards sunlight breaking through clouds. You think joy is a reaction, something that happens to you when circumstances are perfect. But joy is also a capacity, a muscle deep within your spirit. If you never use it, it atrophies. You forget how to feel it. Even when the sun is shining directly on you, the world becomes grayer, and you blame the world, not your own unused capacity. You must exercise your joy muscle. You must seek out small delights deliberately. You must stretch toward the sunlight of a beautiful moment, even if you don't fully feel it yet. You must practice gratitude, savoring, and play. The figure stretching isn't forcing a fake smile. They are performing the necessary maintenance on their own ability to feel good. What small act of joy can you practice today? Not because you have to, but because you are training a muscle. A few reps of laughter, a stretch of appreciation for a warm drink. The muscle will be weak at first, but with consistent use, it grows stronger. Soon, you will find yourself feeling joy not just as a reaction, but as a default setting you can access. Patience outlasts pain. A figure seated in rain, faint glow growing around them. When you're in pain, your instinct is to thrash, to fight, to desperately seek any escape. This is like trying to run from a rainstorm. You only exhaust yourself and stay just as wet. Pain is a weather system. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It will pass, but it operates on its own schedule, not yours. Patience is the decision to sit down in the rain. It is not resignation. It is profound acceptance. It is the understanding that the only way out is through. The figure seated in the storm is not doing nothing. They are doing the hardest thing, waiting with awareness. And as they sit, a faint glow of inner warmth begins to grow, a resilience that the storm itself cannot extinguish. Can you stop running from your current discomfort? The rain will fall for as long as it falls. Your struggle does not shorten the storm. It only prolongs your suffering within it. Sit, breathe, feel the rain. Trust that your own inner light is sufficient to keep you warm until the clouds finally, inevitably, part. You'll lose yourself trying to be understood. A figure splitting into transparent copies. You twist yourself into knots trying to explain your motives, your feelings, your unique perspective. You create different versions of yourself to appeal to different audiences, hoping that one of these copies will finally be seen, validated, and understood. In the process, the solid, central you becomes diluted, a ghost lost in a crowd of its own reflections. The desperate need to be understood is a form of self-abandonment. It places the power of your self-worth in the hands of others, who are often incapable of seeing you clearly because they are looking through the lens of their own story. The figure splitting apart is sacrificing their wholeness for the mirage of external validation. What if you stopped explaining and simply were? The transparent copies slowly dissolve, drawn back into the one solid figure at the center. This figure is no longer concerned with being decoded. They understand that being authentic will attract those who resonate with their frequency and repel those who don't. And that is the only sorting mechanism you will ever need. Gratitude is the only shortcut to peace. A calm figure bowing before a small glowing flame. You have traveled through 100 difficult truths, each one a stone in a long, winding path. Your mind is tired, your your heart is soft, and the night is deep. Now, at the end, there is no complex philosophy, no brutal lesson. There is only this simple, ancient technology, gratitude. It is the shortest distance between a troubled mind and a quiet one. You do not need to be grateful for everything, just for one small thing: the weight of the blanket, the taste of cool water, the fact that your lungs still draw breath without your command. Gratitude forces your brain to focus on what is present and good. Instead of what is absent and bad, it is a neural switch, flipping you from a state of lack to a state of enough. Will you let this final, gentle truth be the one that carries you into sleep? You bow before the small, glowing flame of your own awareness. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the courage to face these hard things. The flame flickers, steady and warm, in the vast and silent dark. And so we reach the end of our journey through these 100 lessons. Your mind has worked hard tonight, turning over difficult stones to see what lived beneath them. There is no need to hold on to them now. Let them go. Your subconscious mind will keep what it needs and release the rest. Your only task now is to rest, to trust that you are exactly where you need to be, that you are enough, just as you are. Breathe out, and let the weight of these truths settle into the soft soil of sleep. There is nothing more to do, nowhere else to be. Just breathe and drift. Sweet dreams.